Euromaxx highlights. Coming up in today's show, fashion icon Inès de la Fressange is still the toast of Paris. Global players, German Architecture Office GRAFT is in demand all over the world. And lazy and proud, Ulrich Schnabel and the importance of being idle. Euromaxx highlights. And here's your host, Robin Merrill.
And a warm welcome from Berlin. Chef Mario Lohninger from Austria has received numerous culinary accolades, and he's cooked for politicians, film stars and royalty. He has so much creativity, he's opened 3 restaurants in Frankfurt, and they must be really good because Gault Millau Germany has just given him their top award.
The chef is in his element. Mario Lohninger received a Michelin star in 2006 for one of his restaurants. And now he's been selected as Chef of the Year in Germany by Gault Millau.
It definitely makes you feel good. For the team, too. It's wonderful. It's a dream that we've fulfilled.
In his latest restaurant, which is called Lohninger, he prepares dishes from his native Austria. Rustic food with a gourmet twist. Lohninger is the star chef's 3rd restaurant in Frankfurt. The 37-year-old is not one to hide behind his cooking pots. He likes to hear what his guests think of the food.
Ultimately, you're a performer. It's as if you were going on stage. You're vulnerable. You have to keep it up, just like in the theater. And there are some great moments that give you a real kick, and after which you go to bed a happy man. And then there are other kinds of days, too.
Mario Lohninger says the hand of fate brought him to Frankfurt. As a child, he helped out in his parents' restaurant back home in Austria. Later, he cooked for many years in New York, Los Angeles, and Paris. His reputation as a top gourmet chef rose steadily.
It's a very intense profession. I'm lucky to have a partner who approves of that. Of course, I'm like, look, I'm a chef, don't bug me. But I like having my peace and quiet and being able to do my thing.
Even when he's off work, cooking is paramount for Lohninger. On a stroll through one of Frankfurt's market halls, he's often inspired by specialties from all over the world. He knows all the vendors. Many of them like to surprise him with exotic items, such as these citrus fruits.
It's always inspiring to come here. When we've reached a dead end and need a kick, I come here to France. Whether it's an Amalfi lemon or a Buddha lemon, it's fascinating. And it gets my mind going. New ideas, with fish, with salad. This is essential for us.
Lohninger regularly works late. In 2004, he opened his first 2 restaurants in the techno club belonging to star DJ Sven Fett. Today, he has 40 employees.
You can't expect someone like Karl Lagerfeld to personally tailor or sew every jacket or piece of clothing he designs. It's the same in my kitchen. But I hope it matters whether I'm there or not.
The 2 club restaurants, Micro and Silk, are connected. They're both managed by Lohninger's mother. Here, diners eat their meal while reclining on sofas.
Eating isn't only about how good the food is, but how you eat it. That was the biggest challenge here.
The whole family is involved in the business. Mario Lohninger's father is chef de cuisine.
It's thanks to this man that I can run 3 restaurants. He's the real reason.
3 restaurants are probably enough to keep the whole family busy for the time being.
We have to work hard every day to keep things flowing like we want them to. There's no chance to rest. We have to earn our laurels over and over again every single day. We cook from scratch for every guest every single day.
That's certainly true of silk. Here, guests are presented with a different 13-course meal every day, put together personally by the Chef of the Year 2011.
Now to an icon of French fashion. Inès de la Fressange was a top model in the 1980s and for many years the face of luxury label Chanel. She was also given the ultimate honour of being chosen as model for the French national symbol, Marianne. Now 53, she's written a book, and believe it or not, she's still on the catwalk, and where else but in her beloved Paris.
A one-of-a-kind model on the catwalk for Chanel. Inès de la Fressange smiles for the camera. At the age of 53, she's the star of the evening.
I think I'll make it into the Guinness Book of Records. And they'll call me Guinness de la Fressange. I haven't walked the runway for Chanel in 21 years, and I think Chanel's never had a 53-year-old model before.
If all women look like this in their 50s, they should all be on the runway. She's great. After this craze for 15-year-old Russians, it's time. You can't keep doing the same thing.
Designer Karl Lagerfeld and his supermodel have mended fences. Fressange was his first muse. As the face of Chanel during the 1980s, she was a sought-after model. But later the two had a falling out and went their separate ways. Fressange founded a fashion line of her own in 1991.
I thought I knew how the fashion world worked, but being a model is very different from a designer presenting clothes. It's a lot more fun to make your own clothes.
Fressange's line was successful, but her business partners ousted her in 1999. Today, she works as a consultant for the French luxury label Roger Vivier. She's still known as a style icon, and she's still making cover page appearances. In 2009, she was voted the most fashionable woman in Paris by the readers of Le Figaro newspaper.
Certainly, I'm quite flattered to be the typical Parisienne. People sense that I love the city I live in, but I think it's also my attitude towards life, to still be a bit coquettish.
La Parisienne is the title of Fressange's new book.
I'm often asked for advice on how to dress, where to go in Paris, which restaurants or boutiques do I recommend. That was happening so much that I thought I'd write a book with tips and addresses. Then I wouldn't always have to say the same thing.
She's an author and a businesswoman, and she's continued to model. She exudes joie de vivre on the runway, and that's what made her appearances so popular.
You shouldn't take fashion too seriously. First and foremost, fashion should be fun.
Designer Jean-Paul Gaultier takes the same view and has engaged the model to make regular appearances at his shows.
She's so beautiful and elegant. Haute couture needs that.
I like Jean-Paul's message. He shows he likes women, not just young models, but women in their 50s, in the middle of their lives. Women who work and who have homes and families.
In her day-to-day life, Fressange keeps things casual with a pair of flats and jeans.
I feel comfortable in my boots. I like them. And that's much more important than what you think about my shoes. Some women really dress to show off. They wear earrings, a necklace, bracelets, and rings, as if they were part of a jewelry boutique. But why? Sometimes less is more.
And what's the secret for keeping her youthful air?
I try to set priorities and not to get too stressed. When you're stressed, you frown, and that's really bad. In general, the things that make you frown normally aren't worth it.
On the contrary, Fressange has something to smile about. She's set to debut in Chanel's next ad campaign. Even at 53, her modelling career is far from over.
Amazing woman. New ideas abound at the Berlin-based firm GRAFT. The founding team of 3 architectural students had a remarkable start to their careers when they worked with Hollywood star Brad Pitt, who incidentally considers architecture his real passion. Meanwhile, GRAFT have projects in the works all over the world, from social housing in New Orleans to skyscrapers in Dubai.
This is how we might live in the future. In this luxury Berlin apartment, you can get into the tub straight from the sofa. The GRAFT Architectural Office designs open-plan rooms that can be divided up as you please. Thomas Willemeit is one of the company's 3 founders.
We often create diagonal views through an apartment. We create distance and spaciousness. There are perspective tricks that we achieve by working structurally in an apartment and not just by making rectangular segments, where you move from one room to the next. Instead, we create flowing entities. In other words, no matter how large the apartment is, it always looks spacious.
GRAFT was founded in 1998 by Lars Krückeberg, Thomas Willemeit, and Wolfram Putz in Los Angeles. The 3 men studied architecture there. Then they relocated to Berlin in 2001. They now oversee projects in many different countries.
We follow the principle of grafting. That's an expression from the world of botany. You graft different plants that have genetic benefits and perform really well when they are brought together. Bringing things together is what really interests us, and we don't draw any boundaries between art, architecture, interior design, and product design.
This Hamburg apartment is one of their many projects. As well as private homes, GRAFT also designs restaurants and hotels. The W Hotel in New York, for example. Actor Brad Pitt was one of their first clients back in 1998. GRAFT is currently planning 80 new apartment blocks together with the Hollywood actor for the hurricane victims in New Orleans. Another large-scale project is a 5-star hotel in the Georgian capital, Tbilisi. GRAFT totally rebuilt it before it reopened in 2009. The hotel has 250 rooms. The 3 architects have just completed a new house for a doctor and his family here in Biesdorf, a small town on the outskirts of Berlin. The split-level design separates one large room into different areas. Modern interior design. For GRAFT, that means bringing the terrace and the living room together as one.
We basically believe in more complex relationships to living areas. The classic idea of having separate sleeping, living, and working areas is passé. We feel a greater desire for space.
Graft's creativity is now in demand the world over. The trio are currently planning a residential and shopping centre in Dalian, a Chinese coastal town. A high-rise in Dubai, several private homes in the Malaysian capital, Kuala Lumpur, and an apartment house in Tbilisi.
Architecture must be present where it's needed, be socially relevant, interesting. It must leave a lasting impression and be able to fulfill desires. It must show how we live with one another, or how an individual perhaps builds himself a cave.
Graft has some 90 members of staff. A third office, following Los Angeles and Berlin, opened in Beijing in 2004. Graft, 3 German architects with a mission.
Now, heavy snowfalls in Europe this year have been making a lot of negative headlines, but they do mean it's a bumper year for skiing. A relatively new kind of ski seems to be doing particularly well. The rocker ski claims to be perfect for deep powder conditions. So we checked them out in Verbier, Switzerland.
The rocker, a ski almost as broad as a snowboard, is all the rage this season. It's at home in deep snow. What was once restricted to the pros of the Free Ride World Tour is set to conquer the market this year. The rocker arouses hopes, for example, here at the ski manufacturing company Faction in Verbier, Switzerland.
Rocker technology is a huge advancement. What we're seeing is that it has great potential to be applied across the whole spectrum of skis, alpine skis and free ride skis as well. So we think it could be huge.
But what can the 15-centimeter wide rocker really do? Skiers Tino Schiffer and Min Becker of Heidelberg want to find out, so they rent pairs.
If you look at the classic ski, you see that its form is pretty flat. Compare that with the rocker ski, like this one. And you see the difference. The rocker curves up much more at the ends.
Tino Schiffer and Min Becker prepare to ascend the mountain with their new skis. They meet mountain guide Francois Perraudin. He fills them in on what to expect on their ride.
First a ride on the far side, and then we'll head towards Marlena. It's nice and peaceful, and we'll see what we find on the slopes there.
The group also includes 2 Swiss free ride professionals. But pro or not, before they set off, Francois Perraudin checks everyone's avalanche rescue system. He wants to minimize the risk, even on deep snow slopes that have been declared safe. The group starts its downhill ride first on the piste. But the rocker is the most fun off the beaten track, especially here in the free-riding bastion of Verbier. Thanks to its broader contact surface, the rocker ski floats on the deep snow, making movement off-piste that much easier.
They're really good in deep snow, but on the piste, they're hard to control.
Fantastic. You don't have to lean backward. It's a completely new feeling in deep snow.
Experts anticipate that the rocker will trigger a revolution like that sparked by the carving ski. Rockers are set to make up a quarter of all the skis sold this season here. Even free ride professionals are amazed.
If 20 years ago, when snowboards were just coming out, someone had shown these things and said, take a look at what skis will look like in 20 years, probably no one would have believed them. Things are changing incredibly fast.
However much fun the new skis offer, caution is required off-piste. Francois Perraudin always explains how one properly judges the conditions on the mountain.
Let's move along a bit.
That's why he recommends a free ride adventure on rocker skis only to experienced skiers.
Not everyone can just go off in deep snow. You need to have advanced knowledge of skiing. You have to have mastered a parallel turn, and you need a certain balance on the skis rather than leaning backward. Otherwise, even though it's easier to move on these skis, your legs will still get tired very fast.
The rocker is hard to control on a smooth piste, but in deep snow, it's great fun. The rocker revolution has only just begun.
And finally, sit back, relax, and take a break. Something we actually find difficult to do in the modern world, but in fact we need to do it more often. Scientific journalist Ulrich Schnabel is promoting idleness as a positive thing. He says idleness is good for creativity. And who am I to argue?
In the 21st century, we have to be flexible, permanently reachable, constantly mobile. The result is that we're always stressed out, slaves to deadlines, emails, and smartphones. We don't want to be under so much pressure, but we don't want to miss anything either. Stop right there. According to Hamburg-based journalist Ulrich Schnabel, it's time we slowed down and took stock. He's written a book about leisure. The central idea is that idle time promotes creativity and happiness.
I think we need leisure precisely because we find it hard to get in touch with ourselves. Because we're always distracted from ourselves with all these means of communication. And I think developing a connection to yourself and to what's important in your life is something we'll always need. It gives us an inner compass. It tells me where to go with my life. And I think that's why leisure time is absolutely necessary.
It's about enjoying the peace and quiet, savoring the moment, and doing nothing. That's difficult for many people. But the art of leisure has nothing to do with how much free time you have. Schnabel says it's all about attitude, and that's something you can learn. Leisure is about having the freedom to find out what your life is all about. Schnabel likens it to the way children play, oblivious to what's happening around them. It's fun for us to immerse ourselves in something.
Children don't always try to optimize their time, and they're not always asking themselves what the point is. Instead, they do things for the sake of doing them. When they play because it's fun, not because they think the game will advance their career or generate more money. They do things just because.
Like most of us, Schnabel suffers from information overload. Each day he has to weed through another mountain of data. But as a science reporter for a big weekly paper in Germany, he has to keep his finger on the pulse.
We're hit with so much information that it's important for the brain to rest at some point and sort through all of it. It's the same with eating. We have to digest everything we consume. And all of the information that enters our brain has to be processed. And you have to give the brain a little time to do that every now and then.
Ulrich Schnabel takes regular time out to concentrate on creativity rather than communication. He likes to take walks. Nature has a positive effect on the brain, he says, because it's a break from the constant barrage of information we're all exposed to. Hamburg artist Manfred Jürgens is a genuine idler. He likes to spend months working on the same painting. It takes as long as it takes. Ulrich Schnabel recommends making friends with people like Manfred. Their relaxed state of mind is contagious.
I listen to my inner voice and it tells me there's no need to hurry.
If you spend an evening hanging out with someone like Manfred Jürgens, you can feel how their calm starts to extend to you. One of the best ways of calming down is spending time with people who take life at their own pace. It encourages you to embrace this freedom yourself.
Einen das auch ermutigt, sich diese Freiheit selbst zu nehmen. Also, mein Lieber.
Ulrich Schnabel took a 6-month break from work to write his book. And he's proof positive that his advice works.
And on that calming note, it's time to say goodbye until next time. Thanks for watching, and remember, a good way to relax is by tuning in to our next Euromaxx. Bye-bye.